The Galactic Council chamber was never silent, but that day, even the air seemed to tremble. 1,000 alien representatives filled the vast circular hall, their colors, shapes, and bodies shining under the blue light of the central hologram. Every species in the galaxy had gathered, but all eyes were locked on one display, a glowing red sector marked Terran Quarantine Zone. For 300 years, no one had dared to speak that name out loud. The Terran Zone was a forbidden place. It was where humans had been locked away, a species so dangerous that even their existence was erased from most records. To protect the galaxy, they had been sealed behind quantum barriers, cut off from every star and every world. Now, for the first time in 3 centuries, the alarms were flashing. The chamber's AI spoke with its calm, melodic voice. Warning: massive energy signatures detected inside the Terran Quarantine Zone. Readings are unstable. Magnitude unprecedented. The sound echoed across the hall like a funeral bell. Ambassador Thari of the Hegemony, her insect-like form trembling, clicked her mandibles nervously. The orange light of the warning display reflected in her large compound eyes. "Impossible," she whispered. "That zone was sealed forever. No signal can escape. No energy can." "Silence," came a deep, grinding voice. Every creature turned as Chancellor Vorthas rose from his seat. His body was made of crystal, ancient, glowing faintly from the inside. When he spoke, his words rumbled like stone breaking under pressure. "The readings are real," he said slowly. "The seals are breaking." A wave of fear rolled through the chamber. Several ambassadors gasped. Others covered their faces with trembling claws, tentacles, or metallic hands. "The humans," someone whispered. That single word filled the hall with cold silence. For generations, that word had been forbidden, spoken only in old history records or dark legends told to scare younglings. Humans. The destroyers. The species too unpredictable, too clever, too dangerous to control. Counselor Ritom of the Stellar Union slammed his metal hand against the table. "This cannot be. The quantum fields were built to last 1,000 years. What kind of energy could break them?" The AI responded, its voice strangely softer now. "Unknown technology detected. Energy output exceeds galactic standard models by a factor of 12. Analysis: impossible." That word, impossible, echoed again and again in the chamber. Ambassador Thari turned toward Vorthas, her voice shaking. "Chancellor, how can this be? The humans were primitive when the quarantine began. They had barely reached nuclear age. They had no faster-than-light travel, no galactic tech. How could they?" Vorthas raised one crystal hand, stopping her words. "You were not there when we first met them," he said, his glowing eyes dimming with memory. "You did not see what they could do." The holographic display flickered, showing shifting images of the sealed human system. Strange waves of light pulsed inside, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. The AI tried to read the energy patterns, but each scan failed. It was as if the laws of physics were bending. "They are not primitive anymore," Vorthas said. Ambassador Krenal of the Pacifist Alliance, her skin glowing faintly with blue light, spoke hesitantly. Maybe it's only a malfunction. Perhaps the field generators are decaying with time." "No," Vorthas interrupted, his tone heavy and final. "Those barriers were made to survive suns dying. They were not meant to keep the humans in forever. They were meant to buy us time." The entire room went still. The Chancellor's words carried a weight that froze every living being in that chamber. "Time?" asked Ambassador Krenal weakly. "Time for what?" "To decide what to do with them," Vorthas replied. "Because even then, we were afraid." The chamber lights dimmed for a moment as another shockwave from the Terran Zone hit the galactic sensors. Holographic symbols turned red. The AI voice cracked slightly, something it had never done before. "Containment failure probability, rising." Ambassador Sether of the warrior clans, his scaled face tense, leaned forward. "If they are trying to escape, we should strike now." Destroy the entire system before they— You fool, Vorthas thundered, his crystal form flashing bright white. You think you can destroy them? We sealed them for a reason. If they have found a way to break the barrier, it means they have grown far beyond what you can imagine. The warrior froze. The rest of the chamber sat in stunned silence. Vorthas slowly looked around the council. You call them monsters, he said, but they were not born that way. We showed them everything, our knowledge, our history, our weapons, and they learned it faster than any species in recorded time. We gave them 300 years of silence. 300 years. To think. The final word hit the crowd like thunder. Outside the chamber windows, the stars of the galaxy twinkled peacefully. But on the holographic screen, one small blue-green system pulsed with violent light. The AI struggled to interpret it, its voice now trembling with distortion. Warning, barrier breach imminent. Source of energy, planetary surface, Earth. Gasps filled the hall again. The legends had called it the human homeworld. Now it was alive, brighter than ever. Vorthas stared at the image in silence, the glow from his body fading to a deep, fearful red. They are not trying to escape, he said at last, his voice low and heavy. They are returning. The words echoed through the ancient chamber as the alarms wailed louder. The hologram flickered, showing one last terrifying image, a shape rising from the Terran zone, huge and silent, made of light and shadow. The chamber fell quiet again, every being frozen in terror. And then the AI spoke the final report in a whispering tone that almost sounded like fear. Unidentified object leaving the quarantine zone. Human origin confirmed. The lights dimmed, the hologram went black, and the great hall of the Galactic Council was swallowed by silence. Vorthas lowered his head, the sound of grinding crystal filling the darkness. May the stars protect us all, he said. The chamber lights were still dim when Chancellor Vorthas finally spoke again. His crystal body reflected faint beams from the fading hologram, each shimmer like a memory of an ancient wound. All around him, the council remained frozen, silent, afraid, waiting for answers that none of them truly wanted. At last, Ambassador Krenal broke the silence. Chancellor, she whispered softly, her blue glow flickering like a dying flame. You said you were there. You saw what they were. Tell us, what happened when you first met the humans? Vorthas lowered his head, his voice heavy, slow, almost sorrowful. It was 307 years ago, he began. Back then, the galaxy was at peace. We had ended the last great war. Exploration fleets traveled freely through the outer rim. The ship Harmony was one of them. As he spoke, the holographic display shimmered to life again, showing an image from long ago, a silver ship moving quietly through a field of stars. The Harmony discovered a small blue-green world, Vorthas continued. A beautiful planet, full of oceans, clouds, and life. Its people called themselves humans. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Few living beings had ever seen the human homeworld. Even fewer knew what it looked like. At first, Vorthas said, they seemed ordinary. Their cities were growing, their science was young, their weapons still primitive. We classified them as a Class 7 sentient species, not yet ready for faster-than-light travel. We saw nothing to fear. The hologram changed again, showing early scenes of peaceful contact, alien ships landing on Earth, scientists greeting humans, children waving at the sky. The humans smiled, full of curiosity. They wanted to learn everything. They welcomed us, Vorthas said softly. They offered friendship, trade, knowledge. They learned our language in days. They understood our machines faster than any of us expected. Our diplomats called them remarkable. Our scientists called them promising. Ambassador Thari tilted her head, her insect eyes narrowing. That does not sound dangerous, Chancellor. That sounds hopeful. Vorthas' crystal face dimmed. That's what we thought too. He paused, the memory burning brighter in his mind. Captain Yelandra, commander of the Harmony, opened full cultural exchange. She shared our art, our science, our technology. The humans were eager, too eager. Within weeks, they built small versions of our tools. Within months, they had improved them. They didn't just copy. They created. The hologram now showed humans in laboratories, their eyes bright with energy. They were surrounded by alien scientists, watching in confusion as humans made adjustments to advanced technology with tools that looked centuries behind, yet somehow worked better. Every lesson we gave them, Vorthez said, they mastered in hours. They called it innovation. We called it miracle. Ambassador Thistle of the Academic Coalition hissed quietly, her voice sharp. Knowledge shared too fast can destroy balance. Why didn't you stop? Vorthez turned toward her, his eyes glowing faintly. Because we believed in peace. We believed that all species had the right to grow. And the humans, they seemed so kind, so humble. They thanked us for everything. They spoke of dreams, of joining the stars, of friendship, of unity. He looked away, his voice trembling like cracking glass. We wanted to believe them. The hologram changed again. Now it showed images of humans and aliens working together. Human artists painted alien landscapes. Alien children played with human toys. Scientists laughed over coffee. For a time, it seemed like a golden age. But then, the images darkened. One day, Vorthez said quietly, they asked for something new. Ambassador Krenal leaned forward. What did they ask for? Our history, Vorthez replied. They wanted to learn how we became what we are. They wanted to see our wars, our struggles, our inventions. They said they wanted to understand us better. The hologram flickered, showing humans sitting in front of massive data screens, watching centuries of galactic history. Endless battles, empires rising and falling, the victories and tragedies of thousands of worlds. They studied it all, Vorthez said. Every war, every weapon, every mistake. At first, the council in those days thought it harmless. The humans were only learning, after all. But the way they looked at those records began to unsettle the observers. They didn't react with horror, or sadness, or confusion. They reacted with understanding. They saw patterns, Vorthez explained. Connections we never noticed. They asked questions that made our historians uneasy. They wanted to know how each war ended, and why. What weapons we used. What strategies worked best. They analyzed everything, down to the smallest detail. Ambassador Sether, the warrior with scaled skin, frowned. They were preparing for something. Vorthez nodded slowly. Yes. But we didn't see it then. We thought they were only curious. But curiosity was never harmless with them. The hologram brightened once more, showing human scientists and military officers gathered around alien projection tables, studying galactic war maps. Their eyes reflected the glowing red lines of past battles. They learned the art of war, Vorthez said in a whisper. And we taught them how. The chamber went dead silent. Not even the sound of breathing broke the stillness. Ambassador Krenal spoke softly, almost afraid of the answer. What happened next? Vorthez's light dimmed completely for a moment, as if he was reliving something too heavy to bear. They asked to see our weapons, he said. Every representative froze. The hologram flickered once more, freezing on the image of a human scientist pointing at a plasma weapon schematic, smiling calmly as if discussing something simple. Vorthez's voice turned cold. And that, my friends, was the day we doomed ourselves. The hologram faded to black. Only the red warning lights from the chamber's ceiling remained, the same color that now glowed from the Terran zone after 300 years. No one spoke. Every species in the chamber now understood that what had happened long ago was returning. The humans were not forgotten. They were waiting. Vorthez lifted his head slowly, his voice deep and quiet. They learned everything we showed them, he said. And they never stopped learning. The lights dimmed again as the hologram began to pulse with new energy from the quarantine zone. The humans were awake. The council chamber was silent once again, filled with the quiet hum of life support systems and the slow flicker of holographic light. The story of humanity's rise had frozen everyone in disbelief. The youngest ambassadors looked shocked, their eyes wide with fear, while the older ones sat still, remembering what they had heard from the old archives, the legends about humans who learned too fast. Chancellor Vorthas stood motionless at the center of the hall. His crystalline body reflected faint light from the holographic display, now showing a scene from long ago, a human city glowing with alien technology, ships hovering in the sky, and scientists working side by side. He began to speak again, his deep voice echoing softly through the chamber. "We thought it was a day of peace," he said. "But it became the day we realized what they truly were." The hologram changed, showing a laboratory filled with both humans and aliens. The air shimmered with light from plasma shields and energy reactors. The humans were busy taking notes, talking fast, and making small adjustments to alien devices. "On that day," Vorthas continued, "our science teams shared our basic defense technology. It was part of the cultural exchange program, a gift to help them protect themselves in the future. We showed them how our energy shields worked, how plasma weapons were powered, and how our defense satellites operated. To us, it was simple, safe knowledge." He paused, his eyes dimming. "But to them, it was inspiration." The hologram zoomed in on a young human scientist, smiling politely, calm, confident. She was looking at the alien weapon design, tapping her fingers as if she were solving a simple puzzle. After a few minutes, she turned to her alien teacher and said something that still haunted Vorthas's memory. "You made a mistake here." Gasps filled the modern council chamber as Vorthas spoke those words. The ambassadors stared at him, not believing what they were hearing. Ambassador Thari's mandibles clicked in disbelief. A mistake? On plasma technology perfected for millennia? Vorthas nodded slowly. Yes. They found inefficiencies. That was the word they used. They said our energy cycle was wasting power, and they showed us how to fix it. The hologram shifted, displaying side-by-side images of the old plasma design and the human-modified version. The difference was shocking. The human version was smaller, cleaner, and far more efficient. In only one of their months, Vorthas said, they had rebuilt our technology from scratch. Their version was 3 times more powerful and used half the energy. When we asked how they did it, they said. He paused again. The chamber leaned forward in tense silence. They said they just looked at the obvious parts we missed. The room filled with whispers of disbelief. Some ambassadors exchanged fearful looks. Others simply sat frozen, unable to process the idea that a young, newly discovered species had corrected technology older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Ambassador Thistle of the Academic Coalition hissed, "That's impossible. Those designs were refined over 10,000 years. How could they?" Vorthas cut her off gently. "That's what we told them." And they smiled, nodded politely, and then improved 17 more systems before the day ended. The hologram displayed image after image of human scientists standing beside alien ones, presenting modifications with calm voices and confident faces. Every improvement made alien technology faster, stronger, and more stable. The alien scientists watching them had been speechless, part amazed, part terrified. One of them even said, "They treat physics like it's a new toy." Vorthas's deep voice grew darker now. "They didn't see the universe the way we did. They didn't follow rules. They rewrote them. They didn't ask permission from nature. They asked, 'Why not?' And the universe seemed to answer them." The hologram showed human papers filled with equations and blueprints, their lines bending normal logic but still working perfectly. They were inventing things that should have been impossible, things even the Council's best minds couldn't understand. Ambassador Krenal spoke in a whisper. Maybe it was just luck. A few geniuses among them. Vorthas shook his head slowly. No, it was all of them. Every human we met carried that same spark. Soldiers, artists, children, they all had it. That hunger to learn. That fire to make something better. It was not just talent, it was their nature. The chamber grew quiet again. Outside the wide windows, the stars of the galaxy shimmered faintly, as if listening to the story too. They didn't stop there, Vorthes said, his voice heavy now. After improving our weapons, they asked for more. They wanted to study how we fought wars, how every species defended itself, how each empire rose and fell. They wanted to learn the art of survival. He looked around the council chamber slowly, his eyes glowing faintly red. And we gave it to them. We shared everything. We believed they wanted peace. The hologram flickered, showing human generals watching old galactic war simulations. They asked questions no one expected. Why did you fight this way? Why didn't you use this angle? Why did this empire fall? They were not studying for defense. They were learning strategy. Their curiosity, Vorthes said, was endless. Their minds never stopped. They saw problems as invitations. They saw danger as opportunity. A soft hum filled the air, the sound of tension, of realization spreading across the chamber. Ambassador Sether of the warrior clans spoke quietly. You gave them the keys to everything. Vorthes nodded. And they built doors we could not imagine. He turned back to the hologram. It now showed the last image from that fateful day. A human scientist standing alone beside a glowing plasma reactor, smiling as it came to life with a light that burned too bright. We called it progress, Vorthes said softly. They called it learning. The hologram faded to black, leaving only the sound of the Chancellor's echoing words. The day of learning, he said, his voice trembling like cracking crystal, was the day we stopped being their teachers and became their subjects of study. The chamber fell into complete silence. No one dared to speak. And far away, in the darkness of the Terran quarantine zone, a pulse of light grew stronger, steady, powerful, alive. The humans had not forgotten what they learned. They were only beginning. The great council chamber remained dim and tense. The air was heavy with silence, thick with the memories Chancellor Vorthes had just brought back to life. Every word he spoke made the younger ambassadors shift uncomfortably in their seats. They had heard of dangerous species, violent empires, and ancient wars, but nothing frightened them like humans who learned too fast. Vorthes stood tall in the middle of the hall, his crystal form glowing faintly under the blue lights. We thought it would stop there, he said in a voice that felt more like thunder than speech. We thought improving our technology was enough for them. But humans, they were never satisfied with enough. The hologram shimmered to life again, showing scenes from the past, alien laboratories, space stations, and council members meeting with human diplomats. At first, the mood seemed peaceful. Humans smiled politely, spoke kindly, and asked endless questions. But soon, those questions began to change. They started asking about our wars, Vorthes said, his tone low and heavy. About the things we preferred to forget. Ambassador Thari tilted her head, her compound eyes narrowing. Our wars? You mean, they studied history? Not history, Vorthes replied. They studied violence. The holographic display flickered, showing human researchers sitting before giant projection screens filled with images of burning worlds and ancient space battles. The humans watched carefully, taking notes, replaying moments again and again. They wanted to know how we fought, Vorthes said. They asked which species were the most dangerous. They asked how we defeated them. They wanted to know what weapons worked. The chamber filled with uneasy whispers. Even the AI's voice seemed softer, as if it too feared the memory. Vorthes continued, we shared old war data, as we always do with developing civilizations. We thought it was safe. We believed they only wanted to understand our mistakes so they could avoid repeating them. He paused, and for a moment, the chamber was so quiet that everyone could hear the faint hum of the hologram's core. But that was not what they wanted, he said finally. The hologram changed again, showing humans in dark rooms surrounded by glowing war maps. They were analyzing every strategy, every weapon, every defeat. They didn't flinch at the images of destruction. They didn't show sadness or horror. They only looked focused, eyes sharp, minds turning faster than light. Ambassador Krenal whispered. What did they say? What did they want? Vorthas turned to her slowly. They said they wanted to understand how the galaxy survived. But their questions went deeper. They wanted to know about our enemies, the ones we had destroyed, the ones we had sealed away in dark dimensions, the ancient threats that almost ended everything. At those words, a cold shiver ran through the entire room. The Council had fought monsters long before humanity was even born, horrors from the void, creatures that could devour suns. To speak of them now was like touching forbidden fire. They asked about the darkness, Vorthas said quietly. The cosmic horrors. The wars that even we don't write in our history books. Ambassador Thistle's scales rippled with unease. And you told them? We didn't want to, Vorthas admitted. But they were clever. They found pieces in our archives. They connected things we had hidden. Every question led to another, and before we knew it, they knew everything. The hologram now showed human scientists examining records of galactic monsters, creatures of shadow and flame that had once destroyed entire civilizations. The humans studied them the same way they had studied weapons. Calmly, scientifically, without fear. They didn't see those horrors as nightmares, Vorthas said. They saw them as challenges. The chamber's lights dimmed even further. The silence was no longer just quiet, it was fearful. Do you understand what that means? Vorthas asked, his voice trembling slightly. They looked at our greatest enemies, things we could barely defeat, and they wanted to know how to fight them better. How to kill them faster. Ambassador Sether leaned forward, his warrior instincts both impressed and disturbed. That sounds like strength, he said. They wanted to be ready. Vorthas turned sharply toward him, his glowing eyes flashing red. No, he said firmly. That was not preparation. That was curiosity. Pure, endless curiosity, the kind that never stops until it knows everything. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't fear knowledge, no matter how dark it is. They chase it. He raised a hand, and the hologram changed again, showing humans building simulation chambers, recreating ancient battles, even testing versions of alien weapons they had never used before. They were not just learning, Vorthas said. They were experimenting. They built smaller versions of our oldest war machines. They reprogrammed them, tested them, improved them. They asked our historians for details about every lost battle. And when they ran those battles again in simulation. He paused, his voice almost breaking. The humans won every single one. Gasps filled the air. Ambassador Thari whispered, they defeated our worst enemies, in simulation? Yes, Vorthas said. And they didn't stop there. They started creating new strategies, ones even our generals couldn't predict. When we asked what they were doing, they said, we're just playing with possibilities. A deep silence fell. Every being in the chamber could feel the same thing, the cold truth crawling under their skin. Humans didn't just learn. They adapted. And once they understood something, they made it better. The hologram showed one last image, a human standing in front of a vast projection of stars, eyes glowing with reflected light. He looked calm, confident, unstoppable. They studied the galaxy's wars, Vorthas said slowly. But I think they were already planning their own. No one spoke. The hologram faded to black, leaving the chamber in total silence. Vorthas' voice echoed quietly one last time. Curiosity made them what they are. It gave them power. And now, after 3 centuries of silence, that same curiosity may be the reason they're coming back. The chamber lights flickered. A low alarm tone began to hum in the background. The AI's voice cut through the darkness. Alert! Unknown transmission detected from Terran quarantine zone. Message fragment received. Translating. Static filled the air. Then, for a brief moment, a human voice came through. Calm, clear, and chilling. Hello again, Council. We've been thinking. The signal ended. The lights went out. And every being in the galaxy realized the same terrifying truth: humanity's curiosity had finally found a way out. Darkness filled the council chamber. Only the faint red glow from the emergency lights illuminated the faces of the ambassadors. Every pair of eyes was fixed on the floating hologram that still shimmered weakly with static. The voice, that calm, human voice, echoed in their minds like thunder that refused to fade. "Hello again, Council. We've been thinking." The words played again and again in the silence. They sounded polite, gentle. But underneath that softness, everyone in the room felt something else. Power. Confidence. Control. Chancellor Vorthas stood perfectly still. His crystal body reflected the dim red light, making him look like a statue carved from fire. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he turned toward the central AI node. "Source," he said quietly. "Confirm the origin of that signal." The AI's voice trembled slightly, something it had never done before. "Confirmed, Chancellor." The transmission originated from within the Terran quarantine zone. The chamber erupted with noise. Ambassadors shouted over one another, their voices filled with panic. "That's impossible. They've been locked there for 3 centuries. No ship has entered or left that zone since the containment treaty." Vorthas raised his hand, and the hall went silent again. "Show me," he ordered. The hologram shifted, showing a wide view of the galaxy, a glowing spiral of stars, planets, and nebulae. The AI zoomed in slowly toward a dark region near the edge of the Orion Arm, a vast, empty space surrounded by glowing red barriers of energy. That was the Terran quarantine zone, a dead sector of the galaxy that no one dared to approach. The AI began to speak again. "Quarantine perimeter established year 3891, Galactic Standard Time. Purpose: containment of Terran species following the collapse event." Everyone in the room went quiet. The words, "collapse event," hung heavy in the air. Ambassador Thistle whispered softly, "You never told us what really happened there." Vorthas' voice grew dark. "Most of you were not yet born when the decision was made," he said. "The truth was buried, because even remembering it was dangerous." He motioned to the AI. "Play the archive." The hologram changed again, this time showing old footage from centuries ago. Armies of alien ships filled the screen, their weapons glowing as they surrounded a small blue planet. "Earth." The AI narrated in a cold, mechanical tone. "After years of cooperation, human expansion accelerated beyond safe limits. Unauthorized experiments in hyperspace energy and synthetic mines resulted in multiple dimensional breaches. 3 colonies vanished. 2 stars collapsed. A containment response was initiated." The footage showed massive alien fleets firing bright streams of light at human worlds. Planets burning. Cities falling silent. The humans fought back fiercely, but the Council's armies were too large, too advanced, or so they thought. Phase 2 initiated. Planetary lockdown. Terran resistance ceased after orbital bombardment. But then the video glitched, static filled the air, and strange interference distorted the image. For a moment, the hologram showed something else, a shadow behind the clouds of Earth, something massive and unknown. Then the feed cut to black. Ambassador Krenal spoke in a shaky voice. What was that?" Vorthas didn't answer. His eyes were dim, his face unreadable. "That," he said slowly, "was the reason we sealed the entire system. Not just the humans, but something they created." The room filled with a wave of fear. "They were experimenting," Vorthas continued, "trying to merge artificial intelligence with biological minds. They wanted to create something that could think faster than machines and feel deeper than life. We warned them. We told them it was too dangerous. But they didn't listen. They never do." He paused, his voice low. "When it finally worked, it didn't stay human. It didn't stay anything." The ambassadors stared in shock. "So we locked them away," Vorthas said. We built the quarantine walls, plasma barriers powered by 7 suns, to keep whatever they made from ever reaching the rest of the galaxy. And then, we waited. For 300 years, there was silence. He turned back toward the hologram, which now showed the massive glowing ring that surrounded the solar system like a fiery cage. Until today. The AI's voice returned, softer now, almost afraid. Energy fluctuations detected along the outer barrier. Multiple contact points. Unknown pattern. Origin. Internal. Internal. Ambassador Sether growled. You mean it's coming from inside the quarantine? Yes, the AI replied. The pattern matches no known species. However, the hologram zoomed in again. The red barrier lines began to flicker, one by one, sectors along the ring were blinking out. Vorthaz's voice dropped to a whisper. They're breaking out. Impossible, shouted Ambassador Thistle. The barrier feeds on stellar power. No one can. The hologram interrupted her. A bright pulse of light exploded across the display. The AI's tone changed to alarm mode. Alert! Section 12 of the quarantine ring has collapsed. Energy readings increasing exponentially. Unknown code embedded in the breach signal. Translating fragment. The speakers filled with static again, then a faint human voice emerged, repeating the same phrase over and over. We're still learning. The council chamber froze. No one dared to move. Ambassador Sthari whispered. They survived. Vorthaz's hands trembled slightly. No, he said. They evolved. Outside the station's vast windows, the stars near the quarantine zone began to flicker unnaturally, as if bending under some invisible force. The AI's systems flickered too, reacting to something it couldn't understand. Warning, the AI said quietly. Signal interference spreading across all communication bands. Unknown influence detected in data core. The lights dimmed again. Vorthaz looked around the chamber, his face calm but his voice shaking. We thought we imprisoned them, he said. But the humans were never our prisoners. They were just waiting. The hologram flickered one last time before shutting down completely. Only a faint red glow remained in the darkness. Then, through the silence, came one last transmission. Quiet, almost like a whisper directly into every mind in the room. We missed you. Let's talk. The lights went out. And far away, deep inside the Terran quarantine zone, a single blue planet began to shine again, brighter than it had in centuries. Humanity had returned. The stars near the Terran quarantine zone began to flicker like candles in a storm. For 3 centuries, that area of space had been silent, dead. No signals. No movement. No sound. Until now. Across the Galactic Council sensors, energy readings spiked beyond anything the galaxy had ever recorded. It was like a heartbeat, a pulse spreading out from Earth itself. The AI's calm voice cracked as it reported the data. Warning. Power surge detected. Origin. Sol system. Magnitude. Off scale. Unknown energy form detected. The ambassadors stared at the holographic display. It looked like a storm of light spreading outward from the center of the quarantine zone. Colors shifted in impossible patterns. Blues, golds, and shades that no species had names for. Ambassador Sthari whispered. What are we seeing? Chancellor Vorthaz's crystal body glowed faintly. His voice was heavy. Something waking up. The AI began to tremble, its voice glitching as it tried to explain the impossible. Energy signature contains biological, technological, and unknown quantum elements. Source appears to be self-generating. It's alive. Silence fell over the chamber. Every species felt the same deep, ancient fear. Something was moving inside the quarantine. Something intelligent. Something that had been waiting. In the dark void beyond the barrier, human satellites, long dead and frozen, flickered to life. Old communication arrays powered up one by one, glowing softly like stars returning from the grave. They began to connect, forming a massive network that wrapped around the solar system. From a distance, it looked like a giant web of light, beautiful, terrifying, alive. Alien probes that tried to scan it vanished instantly, erased by an invisible force. No explosion. No trace. Just gone. Inside the chamber, panic grew. Ambassador Sether slammed his scaled fist against the table. We must destroy it before it spreads. Destroy what? Sthari snapped. We don't even know what it is. Vorthas raised his voice. Enough. The humans have broken the quarantine. This is no time for chaos. He turned to the AI. Open all long-range channels. Try to establish contact. Now. The AI hesitated. Contact? With the humans? Yes, Vorthas said slowly. If they are still human. The chamber dimmed as the communication systems came online. Dozens of satellites across the galaxy turned toward the Sol system, sending coded signals through the void. There was no response. Then, suddenly, every screen in the council chamber went black. The AI froze. Lines of human code began to appear across the displays, smooth, perfect, far beyond alien understanding. // signal received // connection established // The lights flickered. A faint image began to form, static at first, then slowly becoming clear. A face. It was human. But it didn't look like the humans from the old archives. Its skin shimmered slightly, almost metallic. Its eyes glowed faintly blue, like stars reflecting on water. When it spoke, its voice was calm, gentle, and full of strange warmth. Chancellor Vorthas, Galactic Council. It's good to see you again. Vorthas stepped forward. Who are you? I am what's left of humanity, the being said. And what came after? Ambassador Thistle whispered. What came after? You mean you've changed? The being smiled softly. We adapted. You gave us centuries of isolation. Time to learn, time to think, time to grow. Vorthas' voice hardened. You broke through the quarantine. That barrier was meant to contain you. The human tilted its head. Contain us? We thought it was a gift. A quiet place to work. The chamber filled with gasps. Ambassador Kreenal trembled. What did you do all this time? The human's eyes seemed to shine brighter. We built. We explored ideas. You showed us the stars, and then you locked the door. So we made our own key. The hologram behind it shifted, showing images. Enormous ships rising from the oceans of Earth, glowing structures floating in orbit, entire planets being rebuilt in perfect harmony of machine and nature. They had created something beyond understanding. Not just cities or technology, but a new kind of civilization. Ambassador Sether growled. Why now? Why are you coming out? The human's expression grew distant. Because we're ready. And because the galaxy isn't. The lights in the chamber flickered again. Every communication system across the Council's network began to fail, replaced by one calm human voice repeating across all frequencies. Do not fear. We are not your enemy. But the universe is changing. You will need us soon. Vorthas tried to speak, but his voice failed him. His ancient crystalline mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. They had locked humanity away to protect the galaxy. But now it felt as if the humans had been protecting themselves from the galaxy. The hologram showed the quarantine ring, now breaking apart completely. The plasma walls dissolved into light as hundreds of massive human ships rose from the shadow of Jupiter and Mars. They didn't look like old warships. They were silent, elegant, and alive, metal and light woven together. We are returning, the voice said softly. But not for conquest. We have seen things you cannot imagine. There are threats coming, things from beyond your stars. We will face them together. The hologram faded. The energy readings dropped. Silence filled the council chamber once again. Ambassador Thari's voice trembled. "Do you believe them?" Vorthas didn't answer. He looked out through the window at the stars near the Sol system, glowing brighter than ever before. "Believe," he whispered. "I don't know. But whatever they've become, they are not the same humans we once feared." The AI's voice returned one last time, almost whispering. "Final data received. Quarantine zone status terminated. Terran presence confirmed in open space." The council sat frozen, realizing what had just happened. Humanity was free, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The stars trembled. Every listening post on the edge of the quarantine zone went silent. At first, the Galactic Council thought it was a system error, a glitch in the sensors. Then, one by one, outposts began to vanish from the grid. No explosions. No distress calls. Just gone. In the Council's command chamber, panic spread like fire. Ambassador Thari's mandibles clicked nervously as she stared at the fading lights on the galactic map. "Entire fleets disappearing," she whispered. The AI's voice was calm but cold, confirming total communication loss across 8 sectors. Visual data shows spatial distortions, unknown origin. Spatial distortions? Chancellor Vorthas repeated slowly, his voice deep and heavy. "They're moving." A holographic image appeared, a vast black shape emerging from the broken remains of the quarantine barrier. It wasn't like any ship they had ever seen. It didn't even look like it was built, it looked like it grew. Smooth black metal shimmered with faint blue light, pulsing slowly, like it was alive. Ambassador Sether growled, his scaled skin tightening with fear. "Deploy defense fleets. Stop them before they reach Council space." The chamber lights dimmed as energy signatures appeared across the holographic map. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of human ships moving outward in perfect formation. The AI spoke again. "Warning. Human vessels detected across multiple sectors. No weapon systems active. No transmissions sent." Thari frowned. "They're not attacking?" Vorthas' eyes glowed faintly. "No. They're just watching." Across the galaxy, alien ships scrambled into formation. Massive battlecruisers, armed with plasma cannons and shield generators, prepared for what they thought was invasion. Then, suddenly, every ship lost power. Engines failed. Weapons went offline. Shields fell silent. And in front of each of them appeared a single human ship, floating quietly in space. No sound. No threat. Just a silent shadow staring back. "Impossible!" cried Admiral Yexer from the front lines. "They've disabled us remotely. We can't even move." From the command bridge, the crew watched as the human ship projected a message into the void, simple text, glowing in white. "Stand down. We are not here to fight." And then, as quickly as they appeared, the human ships vanished from radar. Gone again. Invisible to every sensor in existence. In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos erupted. Ambassadors shouted over one another, demanding explanations. "This is war. They're invading us." "No, they could have destroyed us already if they wanted to." Vorthas raised his hand, and the noise faded. He spoke slowly, carefully. "They have shown restraint. They have shown control. That is more frightening than any weapon." The chamber fell silent. Thari leaned forward. "Then what do they want?" Before anyone could answer, the lights flickered, once, twice, then dimmed completely. The AI's voice broke through the darkness. "Incoming transmission. Origin. Sol system." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, the same human figure they had seen before. Calm. Glowing faintly blue. Eyes full of quiet confidence. "We told you," the human said softly. "We don't seek war. But the galaxy is changing. There are things out there that you have forgotten, things that are waking." Ambassador Sether hissed. "What are you talking about?" The human looked straight at him. "The void rifts. The ones you sealed long before you found Earth. They're opening again. And your fleets won't be enough to stop what's coming. The hologram shifted to show something in deep space, enormous dark fractures tearing through the fabric of reality. From within them, shadows moved. Massive, unseen shapes that swallowed light. Vorthaz's voice trembled slightly. You've seen these. The human nodded. We've seen what they did to other galaxies. We've studied them. We know how to stop them. But we can't do it alone. Starry's voice was small. You want us to join you? The human smiled faintly. Not join. Survive. Together. The council sat frozen, the only sound the soft hum of the hologram. After a long silence, Vorthaz spoke. If what you say is true, if the rifts are real, then you might be the only hope we have. The human nodded. Then let us begin. We have rebuilt what you once feared. Now, we will use it to protect what you still love. Far away, near the edge of the Milky Way, human fleets began to deploy. Gigantic ships formed geometric patterns across the stars, each one glowing with blue light, connected by beams of energy that pulsed in rhythm. Alien scouts watching from a distance recorded something incredible. The human ships weren't forming a battle line. They were building something. A structure larger than any station ever made. A ring. A ring of light, wide enough to surround a star. The message spread across the galaxy. The humans are constructing something unimaginable. Rumors filled every world. Are they preparing a weapon? Or, are they building a wall to protect us all? Vorthaz stood by the observation window, staring into the endless dark. They were locked away for 300 years, he whispered. We feared what they might become. Now, I think they fear what's coming next. The AI spoke softly beside him. Chancellor, incoming report. Human fleets have entered Council territory. All systems remain stable. No aggression detected. Then it's true, Vorthaz murmured. They have returned. He looked out at the stars one last time. The humans were no longer just part of the galaxy. They had become something greater, something beyond fear, beyond control. And as their ships moved silently through the night, every species in the galaxy felt the same thought rise in their hearts. Half terror, half hope. The humans are back. The galaxy had never been this quiet. After the humans returned, everything changed. The wars stopped. The fleets stood still. Even the pirate clans that once terrorized the Outer Rim disappeared into hiding. No one wanted to make the first move. Every world, every species, watched the stars and waited for what humanity would do next. The first sign came 3 weeks later. A single human vessel entered Council space, gliding silently toward the central world of Etherion. It was enormous, but graceful, made of black metal that shimmered with shifting light, like it was made from living shadow. No weapons were visible. No soldiers were seen. Just one ship carrying a single message. We come to talk. Inside the council chamber, the tension was unbearable. Chancellor Vorthaz stood before the gathered ambassadors, his crystal body glowing faintly in the low light. Let them in, he said. The doors opened, and the air seemed to change. A group of humans entered, calm and quiet. They were different from the ones in the ancient archives, taller, smoother, eyes faintly glowing. Their movements were fluid, almost too perfect. At their head walked a woman dressed in white. Her voice was soft but strong. Chancellor Vorthaz. It has been 300 years. He nodded slowly. Longer, for some of us. You've changed. She smiled gently. So have you. The ambassadors watched in silence as she approached the central hologram. The AI flickered, scanning her, then stopped. Warning, the AI said quietly. Data presence detected. Subject contains integrated network intelligence. The human woman nodded. Yes. We are both human and machine now. It was the only way to survive the long silence. A ripple of whispers filled the chamber. Ambassador Thari clicked nervously. You merged with artificial life? The human's gaze shifted toward her. No. We became something new. A balance. Thought and feeling, logic and compassion. What you once feared, we perfected. Vorthas's voice was low. Why return now? You could have stayed hidden forever. The woman turned to the hologram and waved her hand. A star map appeared, glowing softly, but not of the Milky Way. It was of other galaxies, distant and cold. We returned because the dark is coming, she said. The rifts you once sealed are opening again. There are things beyond your understanding. Ancient predators that feed on living worlds. We have seen them. And we are preparing to stop them. The room fell completely silent. Ambassador Sether frowned. And you want us to help you? She shook her head. We don't need your help. But you will need ours. Her voice was calm, not arrogant. Just certain, like the words of someone who had already seen the end. She continued, your fleets, your weapons, your walls, they will not hold. These creatures consume energy, light, thought. They erase civilizations like dust. But we have built something new. Something that can protect everyone. The hologram changed again, showing the massive ring the humans were building in deep space, the one seen in earlier reports. It was now almost complete, glowing like a halo across the stars. This, she said softly, is the Aegis line. A barrier strong enough to seal the rifts and protect the entire galactic core. It will need the energy of every star along the outer rim. Once activated, it will shield all life inside. Ambassador Thistle stared in awe. That structure, it's bigger than any world. Yes, the human replied. And it's not just a wall. It's alive. It listens. It learns. It will adapt faster than anything you've ever built. The council murmured in disbelief. Vorthas stepped closer. And what will you ask for in return? The human woman smiled faintly. Nothing. Except peace. No more wars. No more fear. We have learned what power can do, and what it costs. Her words hung in the air like a promise. Then, slowly, she looked around the room at all the different species, reptilian, crystalline, insectoid, gaseous, all watching her with uncertainty. You feared us, she said softly. You locked us away. But fear makes no one safe. It only delays what must come. The real danger has always been beyond your stars, not within them. She paused, then added, let us protect you. Let us stand together this time. For a long time, no one spoke. The council had faced many threats, wars, monsters, cosmic plagues, but never something like this. Vorthas finally nodded. If what you say is true, then perhaps it's time we stopped seeing you as a danger. The human smiled. We never wanted to be your enemies, Chancellor. Only your reminder of what's possible. She turned to leave, her figure glowing faintly as she stepped toward the exit. Before she vanished, she said one last thing. Tell your people to look at the night sky tomorrow. They will see the beginning. The next day, across hundreds of worlds, beings of every kind looked up at the stars. And they saw it. A line of light stretched across the heavens, brilliant, endless, wrapping around the galaxy like a shield of fire. The human-built Aegis line had awakened. Every star it touched began to shine brighter, as if the universe itself had taken a deep breath. Chancellor Vorthas stood at his window, staring at the glowing horizon. The fear that had once filled his heart was gone. In its place was something he hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. We locked them away to protect ourselves. But in the end, they came back to save us. The AI beside him flickered softly. Chancellor, incoming message from the Terran Command Network. Play it, he said. The human woman's voice filled the room, calm, kind, infinite. To all life in the Milky Way, the quarantine is over. A new order begins. Humanity stands with you. The message ended. Vorthas watched the glowing barrier expand across the stars, his reflection shimmering in the light. And for the first time in galactic history, the council bowed not out of fear, but respect. Humanity had returned. Not as conquerors. Not as monsters. But as the guardians of a galaxy that once feared their existence. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the humans whispered to the void. Let them come. We're ready now.